Oh, leave. Okay, cool. Yeah. I couldn't keep up, Alright, you ready? Okay, podcast 16, 17. Today we have Danny Lee on the podcast with myself and Steve, and we are announcing him on the Perf team.
Hello. First podcast here. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's get it.
This is Danny's first podcast, so...
Your podcast voice.
Indeed.
How are you?
Yeah, been good. We flew down at 6 a.m. this morning, so a bit tired, but
Flew
also
up.
a bit excited.
Up. You're in
Flew up.
Flew
Yeah.
up,
We came up to Brizzy.
It's really good to have you on the team, man.
Thank you.
Steve's spoken really highly of you ever since Steve started working here at Perth. He said from day dot that he wanted to work with you and have you on the team. So it's been really, it was a no-brainer when we decided to expand again to get you on the team, because in the last year, specifically in the last 6 months, you can see that your work with your clients and with your athletes is really starting to take off in the coaching scene. So it's an honour to have you on the team with us.
Thank you. I think it's incredibly humbling considering how I've seen Stephen come into the scene and do his thing at Perth.
Yeah.
And now I also have a chance to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a really humbling experience to be a part of the team.
Thanks, man. So tell us a little bit about you and your lifting, because obviously you're a coach and an athlete. Tell us about when you started with Steve and what brought you into that experience with starting with him in the first place, because I actually don't know the story.
Yep. So I think it was back in pre-COVID 2019.
Yeah.
We started around May. We had a 3-month prep going into our first comp. Or it was around August going into November.
Well, you remember more than me.
Yeah. And hadn't really strung together a good comp because of injuries. I came to you a bit broken up already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
So I think for you kind of had to troubleshoot and get me healthy and on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, it seems like it's been a repeat story every time, and it gets better and better each comp. So we usually fight through some sort of adversity.
Yeah, always.
And we always end up better than what we started in.
Yeah, I think that's how it has been since we started. You came to me not in the best shape. I think we put together a good performance though.
We did.
Yeah.
Which comp was it?
5.5. It was an Adonis Campbelltown comp right before COVID hit, I'm pretty
So
sure.
it was a state qualifier or something like that?
I think it was just a local comp that popped up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there weren't any expectations of needing to qualify or anything. It was just, let's see what we can do in our first comp together.
Yep.
And that pretty much set things off for the next year.
Let's see how much your squat can get from a taper.
Yeah, that's fucking scary.
What happened? Oh, yeah, you said at the start, I remember you said you squat like 15 kilos more on the
It's
platform.
fucking ridiculous.
Well, is that always?
Always.
Still
I can't
now?
sleep. I can't sleep the day before a comp because I know going in, I've never touched this weight in a comp prep, and we just hit what we hit on comp day.
So nuts how some lifters can do that, hey?
Especially when they're 66 kilos
I was
and you're
going to
like...
say, that, and putting weight on your back that you've never put before and you're that small.
Fucking terrifying.
What drew you to asking Steve to be your coach?
So I had a conversation with Yuki, a fellow 66 lifter, and I was talking about how his training was going really well and kind of brought me in to consider Steve as a coach as well.
Yeah.
Back then I was always wanting to learn as well and try and take a different perspective and see what other coaches have in terms of training.
Yep.
How different coaches have different styles of programming, and I just wanted to see, if one person can improve that quickly, what kind of systems and what methods is the coach employing to get that result. So it was a no-brainer to come to Steve and really pick his brain and ask a billion questions.
Yeah.
Still do to this day.
Still do.
I do see threads on his messenger of you asking questions.
Always.
And how much did you actually, so each comp prep you had a few niggles. Is this, what type of niggles were they?
I think it was left hip, SI, around the back of the hip, and then these days it's flipped on the other side. Same thing on the right, but
It's always the way, hey?
we don't catastrophize anymore. We kind of know what we need to do and we move forward.
Yep. How much have you put in your total since you started working with Steve?
Oh man, I think before that comp, my best comp total that I hit was 505.
Yep.
I bombed out of States back in 2018, which might have put me around 520 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the first comp we did with Steve was 585 with just one deadlift attempt. I think had we hit, a second or third deadlift, that could have put us at 600.
Yeah.
But moving forward, it's just been capitalizing on what we have every single comp after.
How did you bomb out?
Soft knees or something like that, I think. Yeah.
Or something like that. You'd know, you bombed out.
Yeah, lockout, soft knees.
I have soft
don't want to
knees.
accept it, yeah.
Still come to terms with it.
Yeah.
Are you really?
It's a sore point, like I never want to be back there again.
Yeah.
So we always lift to standard, try really make sure that training is undeniable these days.
Yep.
So that never happens again.
Yeah.
But very good learning experience.
Yeah. What's Danny like as an athlete?
Great. Probably the best athlete you could ask for. I got a lot of really good athletes like that though. But just he does everything that I can ask for as an athlete. He just will let me know anything that ever arises kind of as soon as it happens rather than waiting until it gets too far.
Yeah.
His communication's on point. Sometimes better than my own back. He'll let me know things without me even picking it up sometimes, which makes my job just super easy.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah, we talk about communication as a coach and athlete, and a lot of athletes talk about their coach not communicating enough, but sometimes it can be the athlete not communicating enough as well.
Yeah.
And on Danny's end, it just makes my job effortless, really.
Yeah, so
I don't
he
really have
gives
to
you
do
the
much.
feedback before you've even given the feedback.
Yeah, I don't need
love
to,
that.
and then I can respond to his feedback rather than trying to prod for feedback.
Yeah, anyone listening, that's a dream.
Yeah.
How have you taken your coaching skills from Steve? Because you can see with your lifters that you have at the moment, when you do repost them on Instagram, they look like a byproduct of what you've learned.
Yeah, I think we truly value having high contact coaching. So what that means, it goes beyond just giving technical feedback. I want to know exactly where their mentality is on that day, how they're treating, training in general. Are they prepared to come in?
Yep.
How prepared are they going into each session? I think it's a bit difficult to do that if we try and keep it just on training itself. We kind of need to know the athlete as a person.
Yes.
So I think being able to communicate my personality to my athletes as well and getting to know them as people, that just makes buy-in much more easier. And so when it does come time to make technical changes and programming changes, they know that I'm coming from a place of care.
Yeah, and they can also help you make those programming changes because you understand each other as a person first and how you communicate.
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about the programming and the technical skill feedback and stuff like that? What are the big keys that you've learned over the last year since, or 2 years since working with Steve?
Nothing is guaranteed. Everything, we put our best guess forward and we just need to see how the athlete responds.
Yep.
And we respond off that. I think gone are the days of having a very top-down approach and having 12, 13, 16 weeks planned out and saying, you just need to stick to this plan and here you go.
Yeah, no.
I think one big thing that Steve's told me is pretty much which I take on myself, is the reason why we do weekly updates is because as humans, we're just very unpredictable. We have so many lifestyle changes. We're not just athletes in a closed chamber.
Yep.
Relationships, might not be sleeping right, eating. We need to be able to account for that as well. So having able to just keep on track of the program and being able to make adjustments along the way, that helps heaps.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good attitude to have towards both training and being a coach, for sure. Tell us a little bit about your coaching in terms of where you started.
So I used to train out of PCYC Auburn, back at a youth centre.
Yep.
And at the time, I was just training by myself and pretty much getting coached by Steve.
Yep.
And then eventually thought, you know, like, I'm learning all these things and it's making myself a better athlete, but I can do more. And I've always had this thought, like, you know, if I don't end up being the greatest athlete, I still want to leave a legacy in powerlifting.
Coaching.
So that's the next natural progression. Like, how can I leave an imprint in this sport? And so fortunately I also had a couple friends that were training out of the same gym, and I pretty much offered, hey, like, I'm happy to coach you guys for free and see how we go. Yep. And just went on from there.
Are they still clients now?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, shout outs to Ethan, Alex, the boys. Yeah.
PCYC.
Yeah, day ones.
That's the PCYC that I see RTN training at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
Yeah. Sweet. There's a few key gyms around that you see people posting at in Sydney.
Little nuggets. PCYC to me was like that first home gym.
Yeah.
And I had a crew of people that were all like-minded, come in same time, we train, this is what we do.
Yep.
And I think building that culture very early on, and just being exposed to what, you know, strength-centered and like having progress in mind first, having that culture was really important.
That's what Steve brought to Perth in terms of having that mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Between the coaches now who are the powerlifting coaches here on the team, we are a definite split with the EPs and the powerlifting coaches now, which is a good thing for us. It has been a really good thing for us. And then the athletes on the floor, the mindset, and everyone moving towards a goal has been, I feel, really healthy for the gym. In terms
100%.
In terms of progression, it brings when done well, it brings a healthy mindset.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? When you're getting around each other, helping each other out, that type of thing, I think it's a really healthy mindset.
100%.
And then you did some face-to-face stuff?
Yep. I worked out of a commercial gym for a bit, mainly working with Gen Pop clients, but it gave me some sort of exposure of what it's like outside of just powerlifting niche. Yep. And it's made me taken for granted, like, not everyone has some sort of foundation. So being able to build people from the ground up has given me a lot of experience as well. Yeah, cool. Do you think that the face-to-face stuff has helped you with your communication as well, or? 100%. I think being able to engage in small talk, build rapport, and have buy-in on a face-to-face level. Just know people on a personal level.
What are you smiling at?
Oh, I just can't do it, hey?
Yeah, you should see him. You don't have a face-to-face session today. Yeah,
no.
You still got a couple of ones that you hang out with, though. A couple of clients.
Yeah, I got a couple, but it's just hard. I'm tired.
Yeah.
My phone's just all day.
Yeah. That is the hardest part.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I think even I beat Steve on face-to-face hours.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Are you still doing any at the moment?
I formally resigned, so now it's mainly just online.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So what are your goals now you're starting with us? Like, this is a really hard question, and I asked the same question for Sam as well. What do you want to achieve?
In how long?
You're a numbers man. Give me 6 months, a year, and then 2 years.
Okay. 6 months. I do want to build a strong roster, contending roster, going into states and nationals. Yep. A year from now, same thing, except, scaling that and seeing how far I can push across each weight class. And then 2 years, same thing. Same thing. Because it's always a process. Like, I don't expect results super quick. And to me, 6 months, that's not enough time. We always want more time to push our athletes to the best that they can be.
It really is a process when it comes to that stuff, for sure. You jump in too fast, too quick, with athletes, and there's just more opportunities for error kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you seem to have a real good base of some people at the moment that are getting really strong. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've got, so in terms of programming and prep going into this next couple months, some of my athletes are starting to show up. It's really good.
Cool. What about your athlete? What about your goals for you as an athlete?
IPF Worlds. I want to be an Australian representative in my respective weight class.
Yep.
But that can't happen until it's won on home soil first.
Yeah.
We've got to win that.
That's it.
It's going to be a big one.
I don't see, where I end up in 5 years because, what I need to do currently matters a lot already. I need to put all my attention right here, right now.
Yeah. Tell us I got a question for you. Tell us the hardest time that you've ever had in your athlete career where you just thought, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Have you ever had a time?
Yeah, first time I strained my rotator cuff while I was deadlifting. I think I gave my coach a call, sat in my car, and I just cried. I thought that was the end of it. Yeah. I thought all world level athletes pretty much have to get to that point injury-free, and that's why they're at the top. And I thought my career was over. After, I don't even remember how long it took to rehab, but I felt better. I was still training.
Yep.
And then we got over it.
And you bench 180.
Yeah. Or rotator cuff injury. Yeah.
How long ago was a rotator cuff injury?
I think that was, 6-8 months of first starting powerlifting.
Oh, okay.
So it was really, really early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I catastrophize quite hard.
You do that? You used to?
Used to.
How have you stopped that? Because that is something that does pop up from time to time with athletes. How have you stopped catastrophizing when things don't go right?
I think in the past, when something does come up within that session, we just need to take a step back, because I think we get so focused on here's what this session is going to lead to, which is going to lead to this, to this, to this. Mm-hmm. And that injury pulls you into the present moment. Like, what can you do right now? And we can't comp squat, we can't comp bench, or we can't comp deadlift, but there's still so many options. I remember back during lockdown, hurt my hip flexor or something like that.
Yeah.
And then
one or the other.
Yeah. So that was during lockdown, and those sessions pretty much made me go, okay, well, I can't look forward to the next 6 months. What can I do now? All right, bodyweight squat. All right, plate loaded heel elevated goblet squat. Let's push this. And then, one rep might hurt, the next rep might hurt a little less. That's a win, right? So taking the smallest step forward as I can and seeing where I can go from there.
That's a really good mentality. How do you put that mentality onto your athletes? Is there any way that is there anything that you explain to them to help them not catastrophize situations?
I think the initial reaction, it's pretty normal to catastrophize. I don't know if I can get to this place because I was expecting to be injury-free during this whole process.
Yeah.
But learning a lot from Steve, like, he leads by example. I go, hey, it's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. There's things we can do in this moment right now that can still set you up for something that's going to be good later on. It might just look different to what you're expecting. Yeah,
I think both of you guys have shown that you can work through preps, not the healthiest, and still come out with total PRs.
Yeah, 100%.
You've shown that over and over again.
we just run on repeat.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is, if you're listening and you are an athlete, and you don't lose strength really quickly. Like, you can still make gains while not having the best time.
It's easy enough to hold on to it if you can do the right things. It's easy enough to hold on to what you get.
Yeah, definitely. You don't just get weaker overnight.
Yeah,
for sure. Do you boys want to tell me about your ACT prep, both of you? Because you both had a fucking great comp.
You want to go first?
Yeah, well, I guess, we were both kind of injured for most of it. Everyone knows that. I think, for the most part. They don't know to what extent, but it was kind of just taking each session. Like, we were messaging each other quite frequently, more than just a coach-athlete relationship. It was more like we both wanted to go to Worlds, so we were both going to treat it like Worlds. So no matter what fucking we were going through, no matter what pains we were in, we were going to get through every single session, no matter what. And we were always going to fucking do it. It didn't matter. Like, you see me some days, I could fucking barely walk.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, I had drugs all over my desk to get through it. But we like, if I was going to Worlds, that's exactly what I would have done. And I said I was going to Worlds. Like, that was my goal.
Yeah.
It was the same week, the same weekend.
Yep.
You know, I did everything in my power to feel like I was meant to be on that world stage, and I feel like I should have been there, but I couldn't, obviously. And Denny was the same. Denny was actually on the nomination list to be able to go.
You chose not to.
Hurt my back. So, as much as I say, like, you know, we do what we can, I think it just wasn't in the cards for this year to give my best.
Yeah.
So having to have the maturity, like, okay, it might not be this year, maybe next year. But
you want to bring your best package that you
Exactly. But that didn't mean that I was still going to give everything going into States Prep and treat it as if I was still going to Worlds.
Yeah.
So having known the disappointment of not being able to go to Worlds, I think we both had something to prove.
Yeah, for sure. It felt like we had something to prove. I remember, like, if there's one, like, distinct session that I remember was one where you were like, it was like 2 weeks out or a week and a half, and you were deadlifting, and you're like, this hurts, and you deadlifted like 190 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you're like, should I leave it there? And I was like, I want you to treat this like this is your last heavy deadlift session before you're going to Malta, before you're hopping on a plane tomorrow. And you just said, like, say less or something.
And then pick up?
I think I hit 240.
Fuck off.
Yeah,
Are
like,
you serious?
the 190 was shocking.
It was disgusting. I was in pain.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what RP8 meant on the program, because I find, you know, there's an intent to actually, like, what is this session for? Do you want me to taper early? Do you want me to push this? And he just said, like, this is your last big session. I was like, oh, fuck, all right, and we're going.
Was it really, or did you just say that?
Good bit of both. We still had one more on the Saturday.
Yeah.
But that was the last big deadlift.
So
that
you just
wanted.
tapered a little bit earlier, yeah.
But I think for me too, like, because he said, you know, I'm sore and this hurts, and I was like, I want you to fucking just do it. Like, you have to do it. Like, if we were hopping on a plane and we were going to Malta, you would regret not doing your last heavy deadlift session. So I need you to just block it out and just go. And at the same time, I was training.
Yep.
And I couldn't even bodyweight squat. And I remember, because he kept sending me videos of like another deadlift and then another one and then another one, and they just kept coming through more and more weight.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting through my whole session, which I couldn't even bodyweight squat. I ended up squatting like, it was that middle squat day, I think I squatted like 200 for 3 or something, whereas I literally couldn't squat the bar to start with. But I just kept putting weight on and just getting through my session at the same time, because I was like, fuck, if I'm going to do this, like, right now my athlete's leading by example, I need to be able to do it myself.
I didn't even know that.
Because I didn't tell you that. Why would I tell you that? I was bleeding off you that day.
For the listeners at home, we're not advocating training in pain. We're just going through an experience.
Yeah, that was just an experience. That was like a coach-athlete experience. That was like, if for me as a coach and athlete, if I'm going to push someone to do this, and I don't do that with everyone.
Yeah.
Danny's someone that I do it with, because I know he
responds that way.
He responds, and he literally wants to be the best in the world.
Yep.
Then I'll push.
Yep.
And I'm the same.
Yep.
I push myself to the limits all the time.
Yep.
So for that moment there, I was just like, we were just feeding off each other.
Yep. And going back, you wouldn't do that with everyone. That's just an experience. You probably don't ever want to go through that experience again, really.
No, not at all.
It's not something.
But that's the other thing too. Like, as athletes, like, if you want to be the best, there is going to be sessions like that. Like, you are going to push through pain. You're going to have to. Sometimes there isn't ways around it. You're going to get to 2 weeks out, your body's going to be beat, it's going to be telling you to stop.
Yep.
But you, like, just got to get it done and get through to that last week, and then we can taper and your body can recover.
Yeah, and there's stages of being athletes. I've coached athletes now who have gone through that, and in my experience, it makes them better athletes because it makes them more resilient
Yeah.
to when things go wrong again.
Yeah, 100%. And like, how many times do you see an athlete pull out from a meet 2 or 3 weeks out because they're sore?
Yeah.
It's all too often.
All the time.
When it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, all you had to do was get through that last one, and you had that time to, recover, because you know that you always see him post training again the next week saying, I feel good again, like time to push some volumes. Like you probably could have done that meet that you were supposed to do 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. And and anything can happen meet day.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything can happen. You could wake up and go, fuck it, it just feels lighter, or I'm not in so much pain. I've got adrenaline going through my system. I've tapered really well. I'm not as fatigued. I feel good.
Smack deep to ibuprofen.
Stop advocating for ibuprofen on our fucking podcast.
800 milligrams.
So moving on from that, ibuprofen boys, how would you work with an athlete, Danny, who isn't that way inclined? It might be, you might have worked with them for a little while, it's their first injury, and they're not wanting to push through it. What are some different ways that you can communicate with them to help them to maybe understand injury a bit more in terms of what actually is an injury in powerlifting? Because I think people are very quick to associate pain with structural problems with powerlifting when it really isn't the same as playing a game of football. Do you get what I mean? In terms of structural breakdown?
Yeah.
What kind of type of communication do you employ to make sure that you get the best out of your athlete gets the best out of their coaching experience?
I think it depends on their goals. Like Stephen said, if their goal is to be the best in the world and they want to win, eventually we do need to have the discussion like, hey, you might have to expect to feel some pain if you're going through an injury. It might not go from painful to pain-free session to session. It might take a couple of weeks, but if we're somehow progressing some way, whether the weight is still going up and the pain is going down, that's progress. Like if you're repeating the same weight and it's going down, that's progress. But I think in terms of how the athlete sees pain, I think they are quick to assume that it is a structural issue. I try to communicate that, hey, it might not be this way. It might be that pain could just be a signal. It might not be an indicator that something has actually broken. It's just an indicator. Same way we might feel hunger. Right? It might be something that we should heavily consider, but nothing, there might not be pain and injury at the same time. There could just be pain.
I think one of the biggest things too is understanding where the athlete is coming from with their pain and empathizing with that, and then explaining as well. You know what I mean? Empathy goes a long way.
100%.
In terms of a lot of athletes, and this comes from your communication, what you're saying. Making sure that you understand the person in front of you, because it becomes really easy to empathize when you understand the person in front of you.
100%. I think when someone's going through pain, like they're still experiencing those sensations. And so we can't tell them we can't just directly tell them shake it off, you're fine.
Nah.
Right? We have to...
Not unless they respond to that.
We have to almost... I find it helps to just say, yes, I understand. Here's what you're going through and I know it's painful, but it's temporary. It can be just local. It's not all over your body. You're not dying. It can be worse. But now that we recognize it, here's some things that we can do. We can get out of this.
I think that's also why high contact coaching is so valuable. Especially online. You can't have those conversations with people if you're only talking to them once a week or once every few days. You need to, if you're there and you're available, and you can have that conversation and talk someone through a session. That's a massive difference compared to someone that a coach that only responds every 3 to 4 days, or even if their response time's 24 hours, which is still great. But being able to be there sometimes can just be huge to get someone through a session, especially when they are catastrophizing something so much.
And there really is, if for online coaching in general these days, there are so many points of contact that you can have with your athlete. Not just messaging through WhatsApp or Instagram. There is Zoom sessions, there is video straight away, there is video voice messages and stuff like that. There's really, if you want to take online coaching seriously and you want to do high contact, there's no reason why you can't get the same result from an online session that you can get face to face. When it comes to talking someone through their session, when it comes to pain.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah. Anyway, okay, cool. I guess that's about it.
We didn't talk about his prep to ACT states.
Oh shit! Tell us about your prep to ACT states, man.
So I think I ended up with a total of 622.
Yeah, I was watching at home.
Something like that.
Both of you looked so good on the platform, dude.
Yeah, so I think best squat I'd hit coming into that day was 197.5.
Yeah, something like that.
What'd you hit?
212.
Fuck, that's ridiculous.
Scary, very scary. Because when we have the chat, you know, a couple of days before, like, hey, what do you think your top end can be? Okay, best training number, 197. I think I can hit 210, 212, 215. It's like, what?
Was
what?
212 a grinder? I don't remember.
No, it wasn't.
Moved okay.
Really?
It moved well. It probably moved better than 197.
Okay, all right, cool. We'll get back to that taper in a minute.
Taper just hits different. But yeah, it was good on squat. All we wanted on that day was 9 for 9. So I wasn't looking to hit the biggest squat I can. I'm pretty happy with 7.5, 10 kilos above my best training number. I'm not... I don't need to risk and gamble what I might not have.
Yep.
Right. So that second into third attempt's really important. I remember the chat with Steve, like, he looked at me and said, don't be dumb, make a smart attempt. And I was like, okay, we go 212. We go 212.
Did you choose your own numbers that day?
We had a plan, like, here's probably where your top end can be.
Yep.
And we scaled a bit back from that. I think that's the mature decision.
Yep.
A lot of people want to like truly max out.
Nah, you got to figure out where the top end is.
Yeah, we just want to go 9 for 9.
Yep.
9 for 9. And then came bench. I think I ended up on a 165. Pretty tough press commands on that day. But in terms of training, I think I'd hit a bigger number in training.
Yeah.
Just not at that level of standard. Not with those long calls. So when it comes to bench, I'm pretty happy with scaling back a few kilos, knowing that it's going to be a bit more unpredictable. There's the ref calls that we have to wait for. There's the press command. There's just more things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And we're really dependent on the surface as well.
Yep.
With high arch benches, we need to make sure like everything is on point in terms of equipment, all that.
Yep.
So 165, pretty happy with that. And then deadlift, 242.5.
Yep.
I think that was also, 10 kilos up from best training number. I hit 235, something like that. So it was good.
Were you still in pain in the platform or you felt better?
Ibuprofen.
This is also a Nurofen ad, everybody.
Yeah, I think on comp day, I'm not thinking too much about that. Actually, no, yes. During the taper week, I was telling you, oh, my adductor hurts. That came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's weird. I think every taper week I've had, I get really phantom pains. But
Really?
I just try put it aside. One way that I've found myself to kind of counteract that, I've Googled like tapering pains. And I found with powerlifters, we don't have much information on that. But marathon runners, they do.
They get phantom pains?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, because it would be so fucking painful to run a marathon.
Yeah, so during their taper week, I think the theory behind it is when you start to taper, your body might realize that there's less volume going through the system and it might kickstart some sort of parasympathetic response.
Yep.
And so that's how I interpreted it. I wasn't like, oh, my adductor's injured. I'm just like, oh, it's recovering. Yeah. The pain is recovering. But it got me through it. Like I still felt it a little bit on comp day, but it wasn't as bad as Monday.
Yeah, right.
That taper week.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, it was good.
You must train fucking hard. I've not seen much of it, but he must train really hard, right?
It does a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Nuts. That's good, dude. That's awesome. And what, for you, for that experience with the mindset for you and changing that mindset to be prepping for Worlds, how has that helped you now? Like, have you changed? Because I know there's one of my athletes who's completely changed his outlook.
I think it's made me realize if we can do that every single comp, that can push us further ahead. Right? So I think we tend to look at the whole calendar and go, okay, here we can kind of take it easy.
Yeah.
Here we can push a little bit, but
Yeah.
we're still just going to test the waters, see what that's like. And then when it comes to nationals, okay, now here's the serious one.
Yeah.
But with Steve, it's like, even from the get-go, it's like, no, we don't do that.
Sandbag states.
Yeah, we don't do that. We treat every single session, every single meet as the one.
Yeah.
That's the one that we need to push. But having Worlds Prep made me more accountable to that.
Yep.
So that just raised my standard of what that means, to give it everything.
And just going off the bat of that, what type of athlete do you want to work with going forward? Do you want to have a mix of high and low? Do you want to have a mix of people who take it for a hobby and people who don't take it for a hobby? Do you only want to work with high level?
I think it's good to work with beginners, especially because it helps me build up my coaching eye and just being able to analyze technique.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of low hanging fruit.
Yep.
We can pick that apart and it'll improve me as a coach. But when it starts getting towards intermediate, more advanced, and especially the competitive level, it also makes myself more accountable as a coach. We can't let things slide. And so that makes me more disciplined as a coach. I think that will grow me. So I think having a mix is really important.
Yep.
But I would like to work with more athletes that want to take it seriously. I think I came into the sport as well treating this as something that we can push ourselves to the limit. It wasn't really something for myself like, oh, hey, this is pretty fun.
Yep.
Like, here's something that you can get really, really good at and you can get a lot of satisfaction out of the process. I think if I can find people that resonate with that, that's huge.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks heaps for coming on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to working with you.
Pleasure.
Perth, down in Sydney, so I can't wait for that. And I'm sure that you'll see a lot more of Danny on our Instagram and stuff coming up in the future. So thanks, mate.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.